Hello, welcome. So glad that you could be here with me and Cassie tonight. Uh, and I'm so excited tonight to continue Anatomy of the Spirit. I think that instead of singing today, we'll just get right into the book. And if you if you haven't followed along before, if this is your first time joining, don't worry. I'll just give you a little bit of background to catch you up. The book Anatomy of Chalet in the house, Chalet in the house. Woohoo! Good morning to you. Cassie's here. Kind of, he's sitting on the. This is Cassie. Hello, Cassie. Cassie's gonna have to go down. He was like on about ready to settle down on the mouse, which would be a problem when I'm trying to scroll through the book. So for anybody who doesn't know, and of course you can always go back. Meow. That's right. You can go back and watch the previous lives in the series as replays. But basically, the book Anatomy of the Spirit is about body and mind and soul, how it's all connected together, in particular relating to healing of the body. And she goes through that, and it's really like for all faiths. Obviously, you have to believe in God or a creator or divine or something, for me, that is Jesus. But even if you're not a Christian, that's okay. It's like a law of gravity, right? Or leverage, or other laws of nature. It's a law of the spirit and the body and how they're connected. And when we can get in tune with that, then we can help our body heal, and we can help resolve trauma and things like this. So the sound is a little winky. Okay. Is that better? Wanky. Is this better? Sounds bad. Okay, I saw that. I've moved the microphone closer to me, so is it better now? I hope. I am using my this external microphone. Or is it bad because it's like cutting out, like the signal is not strong and it's kind of buffering? You definitely want to make sure the sound's good before I start reading. Let me, while I'm waiting, it's not the usual. Well, that's not good. So this is the cover of the book. Oh, wait. It might help if I share my screen, right? Okay. Share the screen. A bit muffled. Well, I've got the microphone right in front of me. I wonder if it's too loud. Wait. Maybe it's too close and it's too loud. Share the window. Let's try this. Let me see. Oh, yeah, that looks good. Okay, share the window. And we want to go to page 63. Carry on, though. Okay. And we're going to go page width. It's page 63. Oh, we're actually on chapter 2 now. Excellent. Woo-hoo! We made it through chapter 1. So we are made in the image of God. And I wonder. Okay, I just want to move this over so that I can still see the comments. Okay. So, ever since I got my first medical intuitions, I have been aware that they are basically about the human spirit. Even though they describe physical problems, and even though I use energy terms to explain them to others, energy is a neutral word that evokes no religious associations or deeply held fears about one's relationship to God. It is much easier for someone to be told, your energy is depleted, than your spirit is toxic. Yet most of the people who come to me have in fact been in a spiritual crisis. I have described their crises to them as energy disorders, but doing so was not as helpful as discussing them in spiritual terms too. But doing so was not as helpful as discussing them in spiritual terms too would have been. I ultimately did incorporate spiritual language into my energy descriptions after I realized the congruencies between the Eastern chakras and the Western religious sacraments. It happened suddenly during one of my workshops on energy anatomy. As I was giving the opening lecture, I drew 7 circles on the blackboard, lined up vertically to represent the power centers of the human energy system. As I turned to face the empty circles, I was struck by the fact that there are not only 7 chakras, but also 7 Christian sacraments. And that's like kind of based on Catholic rites, but it's okay. In that moment, I understood that their spiritual messages are the same. Later, as I researched and explored their similarities more deeply, I learned that the Kabbalah too has 7 corresponding teachings. So let me just make a note here about the Kabbalah. What I have learned over the years is that Kabbalah there's a basic teaching, and then there's people who misuse it. Okay, so it's kind of like a gun can be used to hunt food, or it can be used to murder someone, right? It's like a tool, and it's neutral in and of itself. And so in the same way, if you've only heard like evil witchcrafty type of things about Kabbalah, just be open to the fact that maybe that there is some truth in it. And I can tell you, I did a little bit of study of Kabbalah, and a lot of what Jesus says when he speaks, like, I am the truth, the way, and the light, no one comes to the Father but by me. I mean, that's like straight out of Kabbalah. Okay, so it was almost like, and that would make me understand why the Sadducees and the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day, felt so threatened, because he was expressing these secrets about how to have communion with God and about our spirit, and my people perish for lack of knowledge, and so just don't be freaked out about Kabbalah, because can it be used wrong? Yes, it can be, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, these 3 traditions' congruencies led me to see that spirituality is far more than a psychological and emotional need. It is an inherent biological need. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Our spirits, our energy, and our personal power are all one and the same force. The 7 sacred truths that these traditions share lie at the core of our spiritual power. They instruct us in how to direct the power or life force that runs through our systems. In effect, we embody these truths in our 7 power centers. They are part of our internal physical and spiritual guidance system. And at the same time, they are a universal external guidance system for our spiritual behavior and for the creation of health. Our spiritual task in this lifetime is to learn to balance the energies of body and soul, of thought and action, of physical and mental power. Our bodies contain an eminent blueprint for healing. The book of Genesis describes Adam's body as created in the image of God. The message in this phrase is both literal and symbolic. It means that people are energy duplicates of a divine power, a system of 7 primary energies whose truths we are meant to explore and develop through this experience called life. When I realized that the human energy system embodies these 7 truths, I could no longer limit myself to an energy vocabulary, and I began incorporating spiritual ideas in my intuitive diagnosis. Because our biological design is also a spiritual design, the language of energy and spirit used together crosses a variety of belief systems. It opens avenues of communication between faiths and even allows people to return to religious cultures they formerly rejected, unburdened by religious dogma. People in my workshops have readily adopted this energy spirit language to address the challenges inherent in their physical illnesses, stress disorders, or emotional suffering. Seeing their problem within a spiritual framework accelerates their healing process because it adds a dimension of meaning and purpose to their crisis. They are able to help themselves heal. They co-create their health and recreate their lives because all human stress corresponds to a spiritual crisis and is an opportunity for spiritual learning. Having read this several years ago, or listened to a book on tape, this is one of the key things about the whole thing. Because all human stress corresponds to a spiritual crisis and is an opportunity for spiritual learning, you can gain insight into the use, misuse, or misdirection of your spirit, your personal power, in almost any illness. It's tied together, people. And when we understand that and we see that, we can be healthier. The source of human consciousness, spirit, or power, is considered divine in most religious and cultural traditions, from the ancient Greek and Hindu teachings to the Chinese and Mayan. Most every culture's myths recount divine interaction with humanity in stories of the gods mating with human beings to produce godlike and half-godlike offspring. These offspring embody the full spectrum of human behavior, from great acts of creation, destruction, and vengeance, to petty acts of jealousy, rivalry, and pique, to transcendental acts of metamorphosis, sex, and sensuality. The early cultures that created these divine mythologies were exploring their emotional and psychological natures and the powers inherent in the human spirit. Each culture expressed its own view of the transformations and passages of the universal spiritual journey, the hero's journey in Joseph Campbell's parlance. Among God stories, however, the Jewish tradition is unique because Yahweh is never depicted as being sexual. God is referred to as having a right and left hand, but the description never continues below the waist. Unlike other spiritual traditions, the Jews transferred only limited human qualities to Yahweh, maintaining a more distant relationship with their inaccessible divine. When Christianity appeared on the scene, however, its then still Jewish followers gave their God a human body, calling him Jesus, the Son of God. The Christians' great heresy for other Jews was to cross the biological divide and begin their new theology with the bio-spiritual event, the Annunciation. In the Annunciation, the angel Gabriel announces to the Virgin Mary that she has shown great favor with the Lord and is to bear a son and call him Jesus. I sound muffled but sorry reading along. Ma, I'm so sorry. That's not good. But I'm glad that you can see it clearly. I'll try moving this. Make sure there's nothing. Suddenly, the abstract divine principle in Judaism called Yahweh was mating with a human woman, or divinely put in. I mean, okay. Yeah, even within Christianity, there are, the divine conception. What is it? There's a word for it. Holy conception, divine, the immaculate conception, which is just Jesus was planted inside of Mary. And there's other people that believe somehow there was some kind of sex that happened. And so all we know is that Jesus was God. And how it happened, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. Okay, Christians made Jesus' birth into a biological theology and used Jesus' life as evidence that humanity is made in the image and likeness of God. Jews and Christians alike believed our physical bodies, particularly male physical bodies, to be like God's. More contemporary theological writings have challenged that biological likeness, revising it into a spiritual likeness, but the original notion that we are biologically made in the image of God remains. Nonetheless, the major literal and archetypal aspect of the Judeo-Christian tradition. The thread common to all spiritual myths is that human beings are, you know what I'm just thinking? I wonder if for some reason it's not using this microphone and it's using the camera's microphone. Give me just a second and let me see if I can check the settings of the microphone and like which one it's using. Audio. Default microphone USB. USB mic. Okay, no, it's using this one, but it is kind of maxing out. Maybe I need to put it farther away instead of so close. Because maybe it's being really sensitive. Okay. So let's continue reading. Okay, the common thread to all spiritual myths is that human beings are compelled to merge our bodies with the essence of God, that we want to have the divine in our bones and blood and in our mental and emotional makeup. In belief systems around the world, conceptions of the divine's spiritual nature reflect the best human qualities and characteristics. Since at our best we are compassionate, then God must be all compassionate. Since we are capable of forgiveness, then God must be all forgiving. Since we are capable of love, then God must be only love. Since we try to be just, divine justice must rule over our efforts to balance right and wrong. In Eastern traditions, divine justice is the law of karma. In the Christian world, it underlies the golden rule. We have woven the divine, one way or another, into all aspects of our lives, our thoughts, and our actions. Today, many spiritual seekers are trying to infuse their daily lives with a heightened consciousness of the sacred, striving to act as if each of their attitudes expressed in their spiritual essence. Such conscious living is an invocation, a request for personal spiritual authority. It represents a dismantling of the old religion's classic parent-child relationship to God and a move into a spiritual adulthood. Spiritual maturation includes not only developing the ability to interpret the deeper messages of sacred texts, but learning to read the spiritual language of the body. As we become more conscious and recognize the impact of our thoughts and attitudes, our internal life, upon our physical bodies and our external lives, we no longer need to conceive of an external parent God that creates for us and on whom we are fully dependent. As spiritual adults, we accept responsibility for co-creating our lives and our health. I know this sounds a little bit off for Christianity, but it doesn't discount the truths that we're going to get to about the body and the spirit and how they're connected. Co-creation is, in fact, the essence of spiritual adulthood. It is the exercise of choice and the acceptance of our responsibility for those choices. So there is a bit of like free will here, that we have to have responsibility in the free will of what we do in our life and how it affects our bodies. Managing our power of choice is the divine challenge, the sacred contract that we are here to fulfill. It begins with choosing what our thoughts and attitudes will be. Whereas choice once meant our ability to respond to that which God has created for us. It now means that we are participants in what we experience, that we co-create our physical bodies through the creative strength of our thoughts and emotions. The 7 sacred truths of the Kabbalah, the Christian sacraments, and the Hindu chakras support our gradual transformation into conscious spiritual adults. These literal and symbolic teachings redefine spiritual and biological health and help us understand what keeps us healthy, what makes us ill, and what helps us heal. Like I said, it's like gravity. It can be used for good or bad. The 7 sacred truths transcend cultural boundaries, and at the symbolic level, they constitute a roadmap for our life journey, a roadmap imprinted in our biological design. Again and again, the sacred texts tell us that our life's purpose is to understand and develop the power of our spirit, power that is vital to our mental and physical well-being. Abusing this power depletes our spirit and siphons the life force itself out of our physical bodies. Because divine energy is inherent in our biological system, every thought that crosses our minds, every belief we nurture, every memory to which we cling, translates into a positive or negative command to our bodies and spirits. It is magnificent to see ourselves through this lens, but it is also intimidating because no part of our lives or thoughts is powerless or even private. We are biological creations of divine design. Once this truth becomes a part of your conscious mind, you can never again live an ordinary life. Some big words. Okay. So she's going to break down and go into each, if I recall, because it says here the symbolic power of the 7 chakras. So she'll have one section about this, then she'll have a section about the Christian sacraments, then she'll have a section about Kabbalah, or whatever order she puts them in, but she'll go into each one. So because it's like, we need to understand what it is in order to see if they match or not, right? We can use our own brains and our own spirit for divining, the truth. Because God says he's given us the Holy Spirit, that will help us see truth. And nobody's perfect. So if not every word in here is exactly perfect, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, so the symbolic power of the 7 chakras. Eastern religions teach that the human body contains 7 energy centers. Each of these energy centers contains a universal spiritual life lesson that we must learn as we evolve into higher consciousness. Only after I had been conducting regular intuitive evaluations for many years did I realize that I had been instinctively focusing on these 7 energy centers. The sacred energy imagery is remarkably accurate in its depiction of the human energy system, its habits, and its tendencies. The chakra system is an archetypal depiction of individual maturation through 7 distinct stages. The chakras are vertically aligned, running from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, suggesting that we ascend toward the divine by gradually mastering the seductive pull of the physical world. At each stage, we gain a more refined understanding of personal and spiritual power, since each chakra represents a spiritual life lesson or challenge common to all human beings. As a person masters each chakra, he gains power and self-knowledge that become integrated into his spirit, advancing him along the path towards spiritual consciousness in the classic hero's journey. The following is a brief summary of the spiritual life lessons represented in the 7 chakras, and then see figure 3. Let me see if that's right. Okay, so here's figure 3. All right, so we can look at it more closely, but let's look here. The first chakra, lessons related to the material world. The second chakra, lessons related to sexuality, work, and physical desire. The third chakra, lessons related to the ego, personality, and self-esteem. The fourth chakra, lessons related to love, forgiveness, and compassion. I'll go through these first. The fifth chakra, lessons related to will and self-expression. The sixth chakra, lessons related to mind, intuition, insight, and wisdom. The seventh chakra, lessons related to spirituality. So if we look at it, so it says the 7 power centers of chakras, or the Kundalini system. And we'll start at the bottom. And let me read this here before we go through it. So the chakras are depicted as lotuses. The spirals indicate the contrasting energies of psyche and spirit. The fiery energies, or darker helix, contrast with the lighter spiritual energies, and lighter helix, all of which must be brought together in balance. So it gives the Indian or Hindu, whatever names for the chakras. Muladhara is the root support. And then the second one, her special abode. The third one, the city of the shining jewel. So the words that they use are actually, I think that they actually kind of translate into these. The city of the shining jewel, not, and the fourth, not struck, the pure sound of creation. Fifth, purified. Sixth, command, or the qualified absolute. And the seventh, thousand-petaled or the uniquely qualified absolute. Unqualified absolute. So you have a qualified absolute and an unqualified absolute. And that's the symbols that they use to represent them. So these 7 spiritual life lessons direct us toward greater consciousness. If we ignore our responsibility and need to address consciously these 7 spiritual lessons, if we ignore our responsibility and need to address consciously these 7 spiritual lessons, however, their energy can manifest itself in illness. Indeed, many Eastern spiritual traditions understand illness to be a depletion of one's internal power or spirit. The congruencies among major spiritual traditions underscore the universal human experience of the connection between the spirit and the body, illness and healing. Seen symbolically rather than literally, the 7 Christian sacraments clearly parallel the 7 chakras in meaning. So now we get into the symbolic power of the Christian sacraments. The early Christian church identified 7 sacraments, or officially recognized rituals, that were to be conducted by the ordained leaders of the church. These 7 sacraments were, and still are, sacred ceremonies that imprint the individual with, to use Christian language, specific qualities of grace or divine energy. Each quality of grace is unique to its sacrament. While the 7 Christian sacraments are now associated primarily with the Roman Catholic Church, other Christian traditions have maintained many of them, such as baptism, marriage, and ordination. Symbolically, each sacrament also represents a stage of empowerment that invites the divine directly into a person's spirit. The term sacrament itself means a ritual invoking the power of the sacred into the soul of the individual. The symbolic significance of the sacraments transcends their religious significance, and in my references to them, should not be misconstrued to suggest that people need literally to receive the sacraments from a Christian institution. The sacraments provide symbolic tasks for the growth into spiritual maturity and for healing, but they are also concrete in their depiction of what we must do at major stages in our lives to accept the personal responsibility that comes with spiritual maturity. The sacraments are also acts that we are meant to perform besides rituals that are performed on us. They represent powers we are meant to bestow on others as well as to receive from others. Consider the sacrament of baptism, for instance, in which a family accepts physical and spiritual responsibility for a child they have brought into the world. Okay, so they're talking about like the Catholic type, when you take a baby and baptize it and you have godparents that are accepting responsibility. You know, if anything should happen to the parents, well, even if the parents, ultimately, if the parents were to die, they would adopt the child, right? But even so, with the parents still living, they're saying that we are going to be a godly influence in this child's life in that kind of baptism. I know, as for me, I believe in, like, personally, like full immersion baptism, the way John the Baptist did it to Jesus. And I believe that's our model. For myself, that's what I believe the baptism should be. But we're going through these sacraments. So, and you know what? Reading this and accepting the truths that are in it doesn't change the other spiritual things that I believe, right? So consider the sacrament of baptism, for instance, in which a family accepts physical and spiritual responsibility for a child they have brought into the world. Our challenge as spiritual adults is to accept symbolically fully and gratefully the family into which we were born. Symbolically, baptism also means honoring your family and yourself by forgiving family members for any pain they caused you during your childhood. The power contained in such forgiveness is precisely the power that heals the body. The seven sacraments and their symbolic purposes are as follows. Okay, so let's get the symbolisms, Baptism, to receive or bestow an expression of grace representing gratitude for one's life in the physical world. Communion, to receive or bestow an expression of grace in the form of a host, the wafer, that represents holy union with God and with the people in one's life. Confirmation, to receive or bestow an expression of grace that enhances one's individuality and self-esteem. Let me take a drink. Marriage, to receive or bestow a blessing, making sacred a union with oneself, symbolic of recognizing and honoring the essential need to love and care for oneself in order that one can fully love another. Confession, to receive or bestow the grace to cleanse one's spirit of negative acts of will. Ordination, to receive or bestow the grace to make sacred one's path of service. Extreme unction, to receive or bestow the grace to finish one's unfinished business, not just before death, but as a daily part of one's life, thus allowing a person to love in present time. These 7 stages of personal initiation represent inherent powers that we are meant to actualize, powers that we need consciously to utilize and employ through meeting the challenges that life presents. The symbolic power of the 10 Sephirot. The 10 Sephirot, or Tree of Life of the Kabbalah, comprise a complex teaching that evolved over many centuries, one strikingly comparable to that of the chakras and the sacraments. In the medieval Kabbalah, the 10 Sephirot describe the 10 qualities of the divine nature. Since 3 of the 10 qualities are partnered with another 3, the 10 qualities can actually be grouped in 7 levels, often portrayed as an upside-down mythical tree of life with its roots in the heavens above. The 10 Sephirot are considered the divine blueprint of teaching that, quote, the human being is created in the image of God, unquote, Genesis 1:27, according to Daniel Chanan Matt in the Zohar, the Book of Enlightenment, by Paulist Press, 1983. The divine shares these 10 qualities with human beings. They are spiritual powers that we are mandated to develop and refine in our life journey. You ever know, like sometimes, like in Christianity, you get those churches that are all about wealth and success and, almost like using God for your benefit. Like, oh, if I'm a child of God, and God is king, and so therefore I'm a prince or princess, and I deserve all the good things that the world has to offer, and so money and wealth and success and beauty are all blessings of God, right? And it's like people get caught up in that as Christianity, and it's a total misuse to think that God is your candy man, and so I just want to say that, like, because there's a side of Kabbalah that is like that it's like, oh, if you understand the spiritual keys to the universe, then you can use them to create the life that you want in the same mentality, right? And that's both of those are misuses. So yes, are there bad Kabbalah things? Yes. But I personally believe that, Christianity came out of Judaism. And Judaism, this is the Kabbalah is what was kept secret. It was the Jewish mysticism. And it wasn't because they were being evil. It's that, like, once they had the secret, they were able to use it for evil. But that doesn't mean that the secret is evil. Does that make sense? Okay. Although Judaism maintains the most abstract face of God, the 10 Sephirot come as close to describing the personality of Yahweh as is permissible. Unlike other religious traditions, Judaism never considered its prophets to be direct incarnations of the divine itself. In contrast, even Buddhism began with a man, Siddhartha, who was anointed to carry the message of enlightenment among the people of the earth. Buddhism does not describe a human-like God force, but Hinduism has many gods who came to earth, and Christianity has the Son of God who lived for 33 years among humankind. So this here you can see, maybe I can go back to the full page here for you. So you can see how it's set up and how this line, and this, I don't know if you can see my mouse, and this, how you have Keter at the top, then you have the second line is Bina and Hukma. I don't know how to pronounce these. And then, so those kind of count as one level. And what she's saying, when the 10 Sephirot make 7 levels, then you've got Keter as one level, you've got Bina and Hukma as one level, you've got Gevurah and Hesed as one level, you've got Tiferet as one level, you've got Hod and Neza as one level, and then Yesod and Shekinah, like the Shekinah glory. And I'm not sure. I think she was going to talk about, like, that in this one you have to reverse it from what they normally set it up, because I believe Shekinah is well, I know in Christianity you always hear about the Shekinah glory, but so let's keep reading, and then we'll come back and look at the chart. The 10 Sephirot are the qualities of the divine that also form the archetypal human being. These qualities are interpreted both as the essence of God and as paths by which we can return to God. Each quality represents a progression toward a more powerful revelation of the names or faces of God. I think faces you might also think of as like facets. The sides of a diamond, the facets of a diamond. I think faces and facets are coming from the same root word. Often the 10 qualities are described as the garments of the king, garments that allow us to look directly at the king, the source of divine light, without being blinded. The other image, the upside down tree, symbolizes that the roots of these 10 qualities rest deeply within a divine nature that draws us back to the heavens through prayer, contemplation, and action. Our task is to ascend to our divine source by evolving these 10 qualities within ourselves. The qualities in the 10 Sephirot, the Christian sacraments, and the chakra system are virtually identical. The only difference is in how the powers are numbered. Whereas the sacraments and the chakras begin with the base as the number 1 and count upward, The 10 Sephirot begin with the number 1 at the top, the roots of the tree, and count downward. Other than that, the qualities attributed to each of the 7 levels are virtually identical. The acceptable order of the 10 Sephirot, the names most commonly used and their symbolic meaning are as follows. So we're going to go into them, but let's go ahead and take a look at what it says in the chart. So Keter, the energy of the divine that flows into physical manifestation. Bina, the energy of the divine mother, symbolic of understanding and the intelligence of God. Yeah, understanding and intelligence and the two sides, the ones that are divided in two and have two sides, like one side's male and one side's female energy. So if there's, but that's not on this chart. So you know, I'm not. Don't quote me on whether which right or left is the side, male and female energy. I just remember that. Okay, Chokmah, the energy of wisdom and the contact point between the divine mind and human thought. Yes. Understanding and intelligence on one side, wisdom on the other side. Yes. Javura, the energy of the power of judgment. Hesed, the energy of the love and mercy of God. So you've got love and mercy and judgment balancing each other. Then in the middle, the energy of compassion, harmony, and beauty. It's Teferet. And then Had, the energy of the majesty of God. And Neza, the energy of the endurance of God. And then Yesod, the energy of the procreative force of God. And then Shekinah, the energy of the mystical community of Israel, symbolic of the mystical community of humanity. Okay, so let's see what she says a little bit more in depth with each thing. Keter, sometimes spelled Kether or Elon, Kether Elon, El Elyon, like, yeah, Elyon, the supreme crown of God, representing the part of the divine that inspires physical manifestation. This Sephirah is the most undefined, therefore the most inclusive. There is no identity, no specificity in this point of beginning between heaven and earth. Chokmah, wisdom. This Sephirah represents the contact point between the divine mind and the human thought. Through this energy, physical manifestation begins to form. Form precedes actual expression. This Sephirah could, in contemporary Jungian language, right? You say, isn't he Jung, the psychologist, or is it Jung? I always say Jung. Jung? I should look that up, how you're supposed to pronounce his name. But that's the psychologist guy, right? In the contemporary psychology language, be associated with the unconscious energy called the animus. Because it has a male tone to it, it is partnered with the third Sephirah, Bina. Bina, understanding the intelligence of God. Bina is also the divine mother, the womb, where all is made ready for birth. This is the anima counterpart to Chokmah. Hesed, the love or mercy of God, also greatness. This Sephirah is partnered with the fifth Sephirah, Gevurah, also known as Din, power, judgment, and punishment. Hesed and Gevurah are considered the right and left arms of God. The two qualities balance each other. Tiferet, also known as Rahamin, compassion, harmony, and beauty. This Sephirah is considered the trunk of the tree, or, to use a comparable symbol, the heart of the tree. Neza, also known as Netzah, the endurance of God. This Sephirah is partnered with the eighth Hod, and together they represent the legs of the body. Hod, the majesty of God. Together, Nisa and Hod form the right and left legs of God. They are also the source of prophecy. Yesod, the phallus, the procreative force of God, merging energy into physical form. This Sephirah is also known as the righteous one, which in Proverbs 10:25 was referred to as the foundation of the world. Shekinah, also known as Knesset Yisrael, and Malkut, or Malchut, the feminine, the mystical community of Israel. All of Israel is her limbs. Zohar 3:23 LB, or 1B, LB. Balancing the male energy of Yesod, Shekinah. Balancing the male energy of Yesod, Shekinah is female and has many female names: Earth, Moon, Rose, Garden of Eden. This is the grounded life force feeding all that is alive. So when Teferet, compassion, and Shekinah, the feminine, are merged, the human soul awakens and the mystical journey begins. At that moment, the Sephirot cease to be merely abstract and become as well a detailed roadmap of spiritual development, directing the individual on her path of ascent. Even at a casual glance, the archetypal meanings of the chakras, the sacraments, and the Sephirot are identical. You can feel and understand the symbolic power contained in all of these traditions. Oh, if you can feel and understand the symbolic power contained in all of these traditions, you have begun to use the power of symbolic sight. You can understand theology as a science of healing for the body, mind, and spirit. Combining the wisdom of the chakra system with the sacred power inherent in the Christian sacraments and the divine characteristics articulated in the 10 Sephirot gives us insight into the needs of our bodies, of our spirits and our bodies. That which serves our spirits enhances our bodies. That which diminishes our spirits diminishes our bodies. It's all connected. And I think that's probably like enough for the brain and for the spirit to sort out. All right. So we're up to page 76 now for next week. And so what do you think? You know, and we'll get more into that. So we're really laying a foundation here so far in chapter 1 and now into chapter 2, because now is the first time you're hearing about the different levels and how they're identical. She says identical in their symbolism, right? And what we're going to come to find out is that each of those layers are connected to a different part of the body. I think I've used before the example of the throat, is in, I'd have to look and see the chart. Later on there's a chart that like shows it like which chakra or sacrament or Kabbalah, which one of those things is the throat. But you can obviously think of it as if you've had a traumatic experience where you were told to shut up and be silent and not speak or whatever, and then that energy spot gets diminished, and so then you end up getting a cancer. It doesn't go in your stomach or your ovaries or prostate or breast or whatever or brain. The cancer will settle in your throat because that's where the trauma is. And so when you learn spiritually how to overcome that trauma and you get your voice back and you're able to speak, then, and I don't mean, I mean, some people it could be extreme and they could actually be mute, right? But put this like this. So some people could actually, it could be extreme and you could be mute and literally not be able to talk. But other people, maybe they just they can never stand up for themselves, right? They're always being subservient to other people because they can't speak up for themselves, right? In that sense. And when you learn spiritually how to overcome that, then the healing starts in your body. Or let's say you don't have throat cancer yet, right? But that's where it's going to end up if that's where your trauma is. So it's just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. And all the different areas of the body, how they're connected to different spiritual aspects of our lives. And when if we have the same the reverse is true, that let's say I have a problem in my throat and I don't know why, then I can like look at the anatomy of the spirit and see, well, what spiritual issues are connected with the throat, and start looking into that and say, even praying, God, show me, reveal to me what it is that I'm harboring and that I need to release, that I need to forgive, that I need to work on, and to have that spiritual healing, so that my body is then released in that area. It's amazing. So any thoughts about, did anything stick out to you? I hope I'm not muffled anymore. I moved the speaker away from me. Maybe I should even go, maybe like that's a little bit further. But I remember one time it was really muffled and it was the speaker on, because I didn't use the speaker at all. I used the camera speaker, the webcam speaker. And that was really bad sound. But, all right. Well, leave a comment. I mean, if you enjoyed this, if you learned something, hit thumbs up. Appreciate it. And I just want to really thank you for listening and for being a part of this, because you have so many choices throughout the day of what you're going to do with your time, whether it's online or offline. And when you're online, then you've got so many choices of what to choose to watch. And so I really appreciate that you chose to spend your time here. And let's end. This is the Power Pray show, so let's end with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much that we have this opportunity to come together. You've said whenever there's 2 or 3 gathered together, you are there in the midst. And we know that your spirit is here. And we know that you are greater than even time and space. And so whenever and wherever someone is watching this, that they are able to commune together with you and with us all together. And we thank you that our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made in your image and in your likeness. And Lord, just thank you that we have the opportunity to learn more about how you've done that, how you've created us, and how we can keep ourselves healthy, and how, both physically and spiritually. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. 9:59, 1 hour. Woohoo! And peace and the dove. You make me think of Lemoyne. If Lemoyne watches this on replay, hey. because he always ends his with peace. I love it. I love it. You know. So I know this week was, with Thanksgiving and everything, it was just, I was busy, and I just didn't have it in me. And I figured, hey, sometimes people need a break. So I did make some posts, some community posts at least every day, um, and some short videos of Thanksgiving. And so next week we'll be back into the regular routine. And anyway, yeah, let's end it up. We said our prayer. So I'll let you go, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Love you.